What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another episode of Just Jets, episode 272. What's going on? We're going to do your voicemails today as we usually do, and I want to start with an interesting topic. A former Jet taking a shot at the New York Jets at another one of his stops after signing with a division rival. So it's a bit of a quiet time. We recapped the NFL draft last week, and we have rookie camp coming up on Friday. So maybe we'll get some storylines outside or from that, rather, that we can get into next week. I'm excited to see some of the rooks, the young guys, come out at Jets camp, and just you hope there's no injuries and hope everything goes well. And again, maybe we'll get some storylines, but don't have crazy high expectations for that. But moral of the story is a little bit of a quieter time around the NFL. May and June and July before training camp, usually a little bit slower, and this is a bit of a slower story, but I thought it was interesting because it really shows the difference between these two guys who both were on the same Jets team, both high draft picks at the same position, and both careers could not have gone any different. So if you missed the news, former New York Jet Elijah Moore signed with the Buffalo Bills. He spent his first 2 years with the New York Jets. They trade him away. He goes to Cleveland for 2 years and now signs with the Buffalo Bills after the draft. And naturally, color me shocked, Elijah Moore had some things to say after joining the Buffalo Bills. And it seems like this quote to me, I interpreted it as him taking a shot at both the Jets and the Browns too, in a way. Here's the quote. We'll talk about it on the other side. It's talking about maybe why things haven't worked out for him yet in his career. And he says, quote, "It's not just one thing. I've run into some quarterback trouble. I can't throw the ball to myself. If you have a great quarterback and he doesn't have blockers, then he can't throw the ball right either." So Elijah Moore goes the cop-out answer. I can't throw the ball to myself. Now, with the New York Jets in 2021 and 2022, Elijah Moore had some combination of Zach Wilson, Josh Johnson, Mike White, who else? Joe Flacco, all started games for the Jets or played in games for the Jets over that span. And clearly, it's not like he's had great quarterbacks in Cleveland either, with like Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston and, some rotation of other backup quarterbacks in there. So Elijah Moore takes the route of, I can't throw the ball to myself. Now I'm joining up with Josh Allen, and it's going to pop. And sure, is there some legitimate criticism in the Jets quarterbacks over the years that he was here? Of course. Yes, I'm not naive to say that the Jets quarterback situation was perfect and it's all on Elijah Moore. But it's about saying the right things and actually taking some accountability. The comparison that I was hinting at before was Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. The Jets take Elijah Moore in the second round of 2021. The next year, they take Garrett Wilson 10th overall in 2022. Completely different scenarios, right? Have we heard one time from Garrett Wilson? Has he publicly said anything about the quarterback? And, I can't throw myself the ball? Has he not just said, we as a team got to be better, we can't keep losing games? Where Elijah Moore, to refresh your memory, now has taken, publicly said, well, I can't throw myself the ball. That's the reason. And also demanded a trade in the middle of a 4-game win streak. That Elijah Moore, the same guy who said, you know what, I'm done. I don't like how I'm being used. When the Jets had their first smidge of success in almost a freaking decade, right? The Jets, I believe at the time, were 4-2 when he requested his trade. They just beat the Packers. They were going to go and play the Denver Broncos. You get the unfortunate injuries with Breece Hall and AVT up in Denver. And by the way, Elijah Moore demands a trade. The Jets don't trade him in season. They instead wait till after the season and trade him to the Cleveland Browns. So completely handled different from when Garrett Wilson was with Elijah Moore was. And to me, this just speaks to the immaturity. I don't think Elijah Moore has matured or gotten any better since leaving the Jets. And he's had a fine NFL career. Honestly, I think the highlight of his career was from his rookie season, the stretch run that he had with the New York Jets, and ended up finishing with 5 touchdowns and 538 yards in 11 games. Since then, 446 in 2022, 640 in 2023, and 538. He had 3 touchdowns in Cleveland over the last 2 years. He's the perfect personification of the diva wide receiver who's going to create a problem. That's what this is, right? Elijah Moore is okay with creating a problem, and he's still young, and you know what? Just turned 25. Maybe it does work out for him in Buffalo and Josh Allen, but he's not doing himself any favors by how he's handling himself and how he's talking. Like, that's not screaming, oh, I got to lock him up to a long-term contract. And who knows, maybe even if he plays well in Buffalo, are they going to go, yeah, that's the guy we want to commit, $20 million a year to? But on the flip side of the coin, you have Garrett Wilson, who has been significantly more productive through his first 3 years of the league, has had 1,000 yards every year. This past year, 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns, 1,042 and 3, and 1,104 touchdowns as a rookie, and has come in and said and done all the right things. And that's why Garrett Wilson's in a spot where, yeah, you would have hoped, and you would still like to hope, that there is more production than just the 1,100 yards, which is great, by the way. I am happy with the start to his career, but he hasn't had that 1,500 yard season yet. But you want to reward him for A, what he's done on the field, and then B, how he's handled himself. And this is, in my opinion, the perfect example of 2 guys who handled it completely different. And it worked out for one guy, Garrett Wilson, who's handled everything fine. And Elijah Moore, who's going to take a shot at the quarterback, who's going to take shots at the offensive line, who apparently also got into arguments with Mike LaFleur as well in practice. So, okay. All right. I wish you luck, Elijah Moore. Hopefully now in Buffalo, there's no excuses, right? So if you just stink, and if you're just a 400, 500-yard receiver, then I guess we know. If you're playing with the second best quarterback in the NFL, I guess we know that's just what you are. But shout out to Garrett Wilson for handling things the right way, and he should be rewarded handsomely with a contract very soon. And I guess shout out Elijah Moore for showing his true colors and not baiting the Jets into paying him. So there you go. Anyway, let's get to your voicemails. Just wanted to get that off my chest. I saw that come across my desk, and I was like, this is just too good. Too on brand for Elijah Moore. All right, we got a few voicemails to get into. We'll start with Neil from Jersey City. He wants to talk about how it feels like every year the Jets have this one pick that's always a reach in the NFL draft.
Hey, what's up, Matt? This is Neil from Jersey City. Football as well. Got a couple questions for you today. Obviously on a week removed from the draft, super excited to get Membu. I really wanted him. So I think that's great. I think they really did well in the first few rounds of the draft. That's really, I feel like everyone's been saying. But in terms of, this talk about Arian Smith going in the 4th round, I think really everyone unanimously agrees that was a reach. I want to ask, I feel like we see these kind of head-scratching picks at least once, sometimes twice every year for the Jets, where they just reach for a player. Notably, James Morgan comes to mind. I think he was on, like a 6th-round pick, but I think he was expected to be undrafted, right? Christian Hackenberg, of course.
Yep.
I mean, I think he was a 2nd-round selection, and everyone was scratching their head. So I'm wondering if this is something that is a pattern with the Jets and therefore kind of management of the board, or if this is something that's typically seen with a lot of other organizations too, where it's you're just going to have a couple of picks each year that are kind of head scratches where you try to hit a home run and maybe take a guy based off of some traits that you really think are going to pan out, and ultimately a lot of times they don't. So just that question for you. Other just as a comment, I guess, just seeing a lot of people kind of down on the Thomas pick in the 3rd round. I really like it. Corner is a premium position, and think he gave up like 140 receiving yards last year at a bad Florida State team. So I think anytime you have a chance to upgrade a premium position, you do it. I mean, even a couple of years ago, we were talking about, our edge rusher and our room being completely filled out and wondering why we didn't draft JSN. And lo and behold, last year we needed, his name's escaping me, geez. But we needed the edge, right? After Johnson went down. Will McDonald, sorry. We needed McDonald after Johnson went down. So I think it's always good to stack up at those premium positions. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the call, Neil. Really appreciate it. Let's start with the reaches. And I think you gave some really good examples of guys that the Jets have reached on over the years. And more often than not, it doesn't feel like they work out. The Jets are not the only team to do that. I thought the 49ers had a weird draft where they were reaching for players, and it happens sometimes. You're just way off. I don't think you want to make a habit of doing that. So I'm not going to pin this and say this is only the Jets who make moves like this, but unfortunately, and this is a new regime, right? You can't hold against, things that Joe Douglas did or Mike McCagnon or anybody else did to these guys, but you're hoping that it works out because this is their biggest gamble. And granted, it's a 4th round pick. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out, but you would like to get something out of Arian Smith, and they are banking on his speed being the major factor, and that he's going to be able to catch the ball at the NFL level, and that, the drops won't be as big of an issue. That's their hope. I don't know if that's going to come to fruition. And then on your second point on the positions of need, AZ Thomas, look, well, I really wanted the Jets to go wide receiver. I understand coming from Thomas, and it depends on what happens with Brandon Stevens and where they're going to play him and what their plan is. I just think he's a good player that really fits what the Jets will be looking to do with their corners. They want to be big, physical press corner team, and AZ Thomas really fits that bill. So while I personally, again, was hoping the Jets would go wide receiver, they go a different route. And at least with Thomas, I think they got really good value there. So kind of the flip, right? You get good value on Thomas. You don't get great value on Smith. But we're not going to talk about value if it ends up, pans out and the guy hits and is good. I hope we're wrong about Smith and he does pan out and is really good, but I have some concerns. That's all. And speaking about wide receiver, Max from New Jersey has some wide receiver names that he wants the Jets to take a look at.
Hi, this is Max calling in from New Jersey, and the NFL draft is over, but we still need wide receiver. Here are 2 wide receivers I think the Jets can still get. So, number 1, I think the Jets can still get Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is a very productive wide receiver. They're still in the NFL. With the Buffalo Bills, he's still very productive. And with the Browns, he's still very productive. He's a very good route runner, and he could be a very good wide receiver. He can complement Garrett Wilson. And then the other option is Keenan Allen. He's still unsigned. He's still on the Bears, but, I understand Keenan Allen wasn't good last year, but I feel like Keenan Allen is still a very consistent wide receiver. The Jets desperately need a wide receiver, too. If I were the Jets, I'd probably get Amari Cooper because, he's still more productive receiver than Keenan, but I would not mind the Jets and Keenan Allen because, they both can be very good wide receiver, too. So what's your thoughts on this, and go Jets?
Last year, first of all, I wouldn't sign either of those guys. Keenan Allen is 33. Amari Cooper is going to turn 31 in June. Allen was more productive last year, 744 yards and 7 touchdowns. The thing with him is he works pretty much exclusively as a slot receiver. So depends on what their plan is at the position. Do they want to have Garrett Wilson move around and play in the slot? If yes, then I don't think Keenan Allen is that guy. If they want that more traditional slot and you have Garrett Wilson and Josh Reynolds, let's say, on the outside, then okay, Keenan makes a little bit more sense. But again, he's 33, and I don't know if he would actually come here. As for Cooper, he was horrible last year with both Cleveland and Buffalo. He had 547 yards on the season last year. Now I get it, comparatively to what the Jets have on the roster, fine, but I feel like we're just name chasing at this point. I don't think Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen really have all that much left in the tank, and I'm not going, oh, that wide receiver room's fixed because they added a Keenan Allen in 2025 or Amari Cooper in 2025. So I don't see this one, Max. I don't see the vision with this one. Let's go to Jay from Jersey, who wants to talk some Leonard Taylor, actually. Let's do it.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Jay from Jersey. I was just going to say, I've been saying this for a while, but Rich Sweeney just put out a thing on it yesterday about Leonard Taylor, and, I think that he's good. When he played last year, he had some really, really good flashes, and he didn't get to play often at all, so I can only imagine once he gets in a bit of a rhythm, he could be really good, man. I'm really excited to see how he develops, and maybe that's why they didn't go overboard with adding on the interior. But I don't know. Just curious what you think on Leonard Taylor there, and I'm excited to see how he pans out this year for us. I'm hoping he gets a lot more snaps because if I'm not mistaken, I know he was the UDFA, I think, last year.
Correct.
But wasn't he projected as a first-round pick at some point, and then he had a little bit of a bad, I guess, I don't know if it was senior season in college. But anyway, like I said, some huge flashes. Curious what you think about him when he gets more playing time. I know you're going to say you probably don't want to bank on him being good. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But let me know what you think, man. Go Jets.
Yeah, so thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. He only played 28% of snaps, but in that 28%, I thought he looked okay. He had, 1.5 sacks, 24 tackles, 4 for a loss. I think I think he should be a part of the defensive tackle rotation, and he'll have a shot to win the starting job now next to Quinnen Williams. Because if you look at the depth chart, you have Quinnen Williams, and that's about it. You have a couple veteran guys that you signed to cheap deals who've played in the league before. Nandi comes from the Chiefs. They signed someone from the Bears as well, but neither one of those guys are guaranteed to start. I think Taylor will have an opportunity to. My biggest issue with them not taking a defensive tackle was just because this is a deep defensive tackle class, and I would still look at that as a position of need even with Leonard Taylor in the mix. I think, you're right to call out Taylor and say that there's, hope that he progresses, and, I think that's fine. He's probably someone who should have been drafted last year. He at one point was looked at, I don't know if it was a first round pick, but significant first or second rounder. And then even going into the draft, people were looking at him as a 4th or 5th round guy. He ends up going undrafted. So the Jets got good value and he makes the roster. And I think if he has a good training camp and good preseason this year, he'll have a real shot to earn some serious playing time. And I'm rooting for him. I think he's an easy kid to root for. So good call out from that one, Jay. Let's go to Peter S. Talking some OTAs and camp.
Hey, Matt. It's Peter from up in the rainy, wet Hudson Valley on this Monday evening, calling in, hoping we get to see the sun sometime this week. That would be great.
Yes.
And trying to see what's ahead for our New York Jets. Obviously, the biggest thing upcoming is the schedule release next Wednesday, the 14th. But it looks like in the meantime, the rookie minicamp starts this Friday through Sunday. So we'll get to see how the drafted players in the UDFA start to shake out, and some camp invites as well. But then after that, it looks like there's 3 different sets of OTA dates, 20th through the 22nd this month, 28th through the 30th, and June 2nd through the 5th. So likely with those dates upcoming, we'll start to see how things line up for the Jets and who plays where, especially in the secondary. So will Stevens really be a corner and Easy Thomas coming off the bench as the first guy? Or will Stevens play safety? Or will Malachi Moore be the strong safety? Or something else in the works? Maybe someone else is moving to safety. Maybe JBC goes back there. Who knows? But we'll finally get that idea of what's going on. Based on the UDFAs they signed, and they have 7 draft picks, they do have to make a few roster cuts. So obviously I would say Greg Zuerlein might go before even training camp and that starts. maybe Michael Clemens, unless they can seek a trade partner, because there was rumors that maybe Jeff Olberg wanted to get him for the Falcons. But I'm sure there's some other low end of the roster guys that'll probably be on their way out. But going back to the schedule release, here's my question for this week. What do you think will be the over-under on primetime games? Ooh. I say 3. One of them being the Steelers if Aaron Rodgers decides to finally, play somewhere in the 2025 season. So if that happens, obviously that game should be a primetime game for the Jets. I don't think I see them getting any more than 3 games, but that should probably suffice. And also, I just wanted to comment that it just dropped tonight. You and I are both Islanders fans, so glad to see they're getting the number 1 overall draft pick coming up.
Let's go.
Time to start improving them. And as always, go Jets and Islanders.
I love it. Thanks so much to Peter for the call. I don't know how many of you guys know, but I do have an Islanders channel that I run with my buddy Mitch Anderson. Actually, that's where I got my start in media. I covered the Islanders for a digital platform for like 6 or 7 years. Started a podcast. It was pretty well. It took off pretty well. Ended up leaving to be a writer full time with Odds Checker, and then was focusing on the Jets. But over the last year or so, really put some work into that channel. It's much smaller than this, but happy with where that's out. So my reaction is live over there. If you too are an Islanders fan and want to see that. Love the question from Peter. Good point on the OTAs. I have no idea what the secondary is going to look like, but hopefully we get a better idea. I pulled up the schedule. So are we going to count standalone games? Because I'm pretty sure the Jets have a home game that's going to be an international game. So I'll include a standalone. I'll say the Steelers primetime standalone game. I'll say they either play the Falcons or the Panthers in, where are they going? Germany, I think. Forgive me if I don't remember off the top of my head where the game is, but they do have one overseas that's a home game. I'll say it's either the Falcons or the Panthers. And then I'll throw in a Thursday night. So we'll go like Steelers, assuming Rodgers, probably a Monday night game. I'll say they have the Sunday morning standalone game against, we'll go the Panthers, and then like a Thursday night against the Patriots would be my guess. So 3. I'm with you on that number. I hope it's not more than that. Please give me all the Sunday at 1 o'clock games. I prefer it, and I just don't want to be embarrassed in primetime anymore. Let's go to PG from Long Island to close us out here on the episode.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. Quick question this week. The new regime is in place. Moogie as GM, Aaron Glenn as the coach. And my question is this. We've seen their opening pressers. We've seen what they did in the draft. We see what they did with free agency. Obviously, the work is not done. But this kind of maybe a nice time to take and just assess the job that they have done. And that's my question. What have you seen that you've liked? What, if anything, have you not liked? And what's your overall impression? And how do you think it bodes going forward? That's it. Matt O'Leary, just did one question this week. Love to get your thoughts on.
Oh, audio started to cut out there a little bit. Thanks, PG, for the call. As always, on Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, the things that I've liked that they haven't given out a ton of information, right? Like Muji gives you nothing in these press conferences, which I think is fine. Aaron Glenn, I like how he handles himself on the pressers. That's been my favorite thing so far. I thought they had a pretty solid draft. Some things that they did that I don't like, the Arian Smith draft pick, didn't really care for. Brandon Stevens signing's a bit of a head scratcher. I don't know what their plan is for him at this point. Other than that, I want to see how this first year plays out. And then we could really start to criticize and take a look back at some of their decisions. But for me, I'm okay with, their decision to move on from Aaron Rodgers, which was a big one. Their decision to not draft a quarterback this year. They're going to see what they have in Justin Fields. If it works, great. If not, fine. You find your guy next year. And I think defensively, they should be a lot better than what they were a year ago. Oh, and the wide receiver room. I have my doubts with the wide receiver room also. Would have liked to see maybe a little bit more. But other than that, I'm in a good spot with this regime. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me for another episode of Just Jets. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your show. Leave a rating and a review if you're an audio person. Leave a comment if you are on YouTube. I appreciate you. I'll catch you next time.